Well, today I'm reporting on this week in Parliament. A lot has happened, been many bills, but I'm going to talk particularly about 4 items. The first relates to the fire in Lancefield, a very significant fire and very early in the season. And the government has been caught short in not preparing properly its controlled burns. Controlled burns provide a very important mechanism to protect our community, but they've got to be done in a careful way and in a way that looks forward to the weather ahead. And it appears on this occasion at Lancefield the government did not put in place the proper foresight and the proper steps to make sure that the fire would not break out of its control lines. It did on Saturday, and I think there are many questions to be answered about the management of this particular controlled burn. It's clear we're in for a very hot summer and there's going to be challenges across the state, and it's imperative that the state government, the Andrews Labor government, steps up and actually does get these preparations in place, because the evidence is that it's not to date. It's also clear, importantly, that it may well be the case that there weren't sufficient people available on the grand final holiday day. That will be a matter for close investigation, but I look to see some close investigation of that matter. Secondly, in the lower house, there's been a significant attack launched on the government by Ryan Smith, our Shadow Minister for Infrastructure and Roads. He made the very clear point that the government had a country bridges program which has not been applied in country Victoria. This regional-based program appears to have funded 10 bridge projects within 4 kilometres of the Premier's electorate in Mulgrave. And when I last looked, Mulgrave was not part of country Victoria. It was not part of regional Victoria. It was very much part of metropolitan Victoria. So I think country Victorians have got every right to be angry that this program appears to be a sham program, not funding roads in country Victoria, but funding roads in the city. Importantly also, this week saw the government bring down a report from the Law Reform Commission on medical cannabis. This will obviously be assessed. The government has said they'll bring legislation to the Parliament later this year. But the fact is that last year, under the Napthine government, we had a bill in the Parliament which was passed through the upper house that would have, under the name of the Drugs, Poisons, Controlled Substances Clinical Trials Bill, would have enabled those in need to access medical cannabis, medicinal cannabis, under controlled clinical trial conditions. It's sad that the Premier played politics in the lower house and blocked the movement of that bill through the lower house last year. That means that many people haven't had access to those substances in a timely way. But the dominating issue this week in Parliament was the issue of Labor Party rorts. And the Labor Party has been caught out using taxpayers' money to fund its election campaign. The use of casual staff paid by the Parliament, by taxpayers, to fund Labor's Community Action Network is quite improper, clearly against the parliamentary rules. And the Premier has been caught out by documents from the Parliament itself that have assessed this as not passing the pub test and clearly a breach of the rules. It's not good enough for the Daniel Andrews government and the Premier himself to just simply block questions on these matters. And it's not good enough for them to use the Speaker to try and close down debate in the lower house. It's not good enough to have words like rorts ruled out in the Parliament when this is clearly designed just to protect a guilty Premier. This is a Premier who has a lot to explain. It's a Premier who has clearly breached the rules, and these rorts go to the heart of his integrity and show that this is a government that tried to get to office by breaking the rules. The community, I don't think, accept the misuse of public money in this way, and I think the Premier is going to have to answer for this. I note there's parliamentary investigations, and I understand that the police have begun investigations of these matters. Whistleblowers have made statements. This is a matter that goes to the heart of the Premier and the Labor government's integrity. They tried to get to government by using public money to fund Labor's election campaign, and that is a rort.